for another V2V Meet and Greet. Third year, and we're doing this, which is fantastic. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. We have a pretty full agenda, which I'll get to in a few moments, but maybe Prateep, if I want to just turn over to you to say a few words of welcome, and then I'll get back into the agenda and we'll get things started.
Thank you, Derek. I'll take a minute to just share my screen.
Yep.
So that we can. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see your screen. Okay.
Thank you once again, Derek, and welcome everyone to our meet and greet. This is the third in a row, third year of our meet and greet, which means we're just starting our year 3 of V2V Global Partnership. We started in 2020 April, but we had our first meet and greet on the 6th of July. And we are continuing the tradition to meet and hear stories from each other and take stock of what progress we have done and what are some of the things that we would like to do in the future. So this is a great occasion, and I welcome everyone to this meet and greet this year. We will follow the agenda that has already been circulated. But before we start, and I hand it over back to Derek to chair the meet and greet session today, I would like to remember some of our friends and colleagues that we have lost over the last year or so. 3 prominent names come to my mind. Professor late Fatou Gueye from Senegal, Dr. Paul Onyango from Tanzania, and Mr. Krishna Chandra Jena from Chilika Lagoon, who we lost in the last 1 year. And we will talk about and celebrate and commemorate their life in a few moments. But I take this opportunity to remember their great contributions to the small-scale fisheries and the wonderful people they were, and all the friendship and collaborations that we enjoyed in working with them. So we have 2 hours, and we'll continue with our agenda. Thank you. Over to you, Derek.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, we do have a full agenda. Maybe can you just click on the next slide, Prateep, and the agenda can be seen. Yeah, and so we're gonna, well, just to quickly go through, we're gonna hear from a number of different students through their own voices and based on some of the work that they've been doing. As always in the V2V project, so much of what we do and what we want to focus on really links back to the students in our project. And so we want to give them an opportunity to share some of the really interesting things that they're working on already. We'll do that. We're going to spend a bit of time with just an open floor conversation, which we encourage our country coordinators and of course anybody else to just share their thoughts on some of the major things that are happening with regard to small scale fisheries and some of the new emerging issues and challenges and opportunities for how we can support and provide some impact and hopefully help out in some way with small scale fisheries in our different country contexts. I'll have just a few words from the V2V working group leads and co-leads on what some of the activities are that have taken place over the past year, but also a little bit about what's ahead now looking into the future, because there's lots of things going on that we're all a part of, which is fantastic. Prateep in particular is going to highlight some of our work that we've done over the past year, and again look to the next year in terms of some of the things that are going to be taking place. We're going to spend a bit of time just having a sharing of opportunities for interaction, news, different things happening, things that are coming up that you want to let everybody else know in our group. And then it's on the last on the agenda, but actually something we want to do first. And as Prateep mentioned, we want to celebrate the life of some of our really close colleagues and dear friends. And so we thought we'd start there today and share some ideas and some ways that we hope can commemorate their many, many contributions to all the work that's been done into small scale fisheries. So with that, I'll just maybe turn it back over to you, Prateep, to talk a little bit about that aspect.
Thank you, Derek. As I mentioned, this was a year of, lots of work and progress and, lots of achievement, but also at the same time, achievements do not come without loss. And as I mentioned, we lost three of our dear friends and colleagues over a period of 1 year. And we thought within V2V Global Partnership to find some, novel ways to continue to remember them and cherish the work that they have done, not only with us as partners and colleagues, but also in their own sphere of work, contributing to the specific contexts within which they were placed. And I mentioned three names, Professor late Fatou Gueye, Mr. Krishna Chandra Jena from Chilika Lagoon, and Dr. Paul Onyango from Tanzania. So in our own little way, we want to announce three programs that have been named after these people that have left us, and so that would be a way to continue to keep them in our work and in our memories and our thoughts. So the first program is the V2V Visiting Fellows program, but specifically dedicated to Dr. Fatou Gueye, and the program is will be named as the Fatou Gueye V2V Visiting Fellows Program for Early Career Scholars and Practitioners. And this program was already planned as part of our project, but this is being named after Dr. Gueye to commemorate her contributions in her life to small-scale fisheries and the small communities that she contributed heavily in Senegal, but also elsewhere. I will talk a little bit about the Fellows Program after I have announced all the three. The second program is the same, V2V Visiting Fellows Program, but this is going to be the Paul Onyango V2V Visiting Fellows Program for Senior Scholars and Practitioners. And then the third one is the Krishna Chandra Jena V2V Chilika Annual Field School. So these are the three programs, and especially the field school was already running over past few years, but we are naming it after Mr. Krishna Chandra Jena. So the V2V Fellows Program is a way to interact, between us. The plan is people can visit between partner countries, not only in Waterloo, but also between Africa and Asia, but within Africa and within Asia, visiting each other for a specific period of time, to work together and collaboratively on various things. It could be writing together, understanding and following up on certain issues. So this Fellows Program would be partially supported by the V2V Global Partnership. We are coming up with different arrangements through which this will be supported. Details would be announced later on, but we will be having our first fellows visiting Waterloo from Ghana in fall, and further details will be announced later. So I welcome all of you to join me in celebrating this great three lives and our small in a way to honor their work and their contributions through this fellowship and the V2V Chilika Field School programs. Thank you, Derek.
That's fantastic. So yeah, these three individuals have had a big impact in lots of different ways, and so it's a great opportunity to commemorate them and really support ongoing dialogue and interactions amongst us all. So hopefully everybody feels positive about that. Okay, well, moving on with our agenda, we wanted to spend a bit of time just sharing student perspectives. Again, there's lots of students involved in the V2V project and partnership, doing great work, creative work in lots of different contexts. And so we want to make sure that those voices are heard. So I'm actually going to pass it over now to Seville, who is going to lead us through and introduce some of the students that are going to share their ideas this morning and this evening or this afternoon, wherever you are. Seville.
Thanks, Dirk and Prateep. Hello, everyone. It's really wonderful to see all these familiar faces in one place once again. Following by welcome and introduction, we want to proceed with student and early career researcher voices in this early stage of the event, as we believe they matter. They matter so much to us at this global partnership. Now you're going to hear the voices of our students and early career researchers who are here with us from different countries. They are going to provide their perspective on vulnerability to viability linking to their own work. So I would like to begin by inviting Foluke Omotayo Aruela from Lagos State University, Nigeria, to talk about her research and how does it contribute to the notion of vulnerability to viability. So Foluke, to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I am Foluke Omotayo Areola, a postgraduate research student at the Department of Fisheries, Lagos State University, Nigeria. I am currently carrying out studies on a research work that is focused on the assessment of governance framework and structure of small-scale fisheries within the Gulf of Guinea region in Africa, and develop governance models, taking into cognizance multidisciplinary and multi-related issues. The research is intended to contribute an overview of the vulnerability, coping mechanisms, and adaptations of the fisher folks to major issues and challenges of governance in the region, and propose interventions appropriate small-scale fishing communities become less vulnerable and more viable. Of theoretical frameworks, including 1, institutional analysis and development framework, which is to describe the principal features, key variables, relations in each small-scale fisheries system. The I, adapt, assessment based on description and responses and appraisals of a typology to address the main issues affecting small-scale fishing communities, their impacts on fishing communities, and the broader socio ecological and governance systems in the area. The third one is the interactive fisheries governance approach to identify how a system works, what might possibly explain why it does not work. And finally, the value chain analysis is to conduct mapping of selected value chains of the participating economic agents with the objective to identify the distribution of benefits of economic agents, examine roles of upgrading within the chain, and highlighting the role of governance. I want to thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Foluke. Now I would like to invite Ruel Mia from the University of Waterloo, Canada, to talk about his research. To you, Ruel.
Thank you, Seville. Hi, everyone. Good morning from Waterloo. And my name is Mohammad Ruel. I'm a first-year PhD student at the University of Waterloo. I'm working with Professor Dr. Prateep Nayak. Now I'm going to talk briefly about my research idea. So my research idea is drawing from interactive governance theory. The hypothesis of my analysis is that a vulnerable governing system often manifests a vulnerable system to be governed. Governability is understood as the quality of governance of societal system, for example, small-scale fisheries. Governability provides a conceptual basis for assessing and improving small-scale fisheries governance, and it is a key determinant of vulnerabilities in small-scale fisheries. The aim of my analysis is to examine the interaction between governability and small-scale fisheries vulnerabilities and their role in facilitating the transition to viability. So my analysis first look at the notion of governability within the context of small-scale fisheries and characterize its connection with vulnerabilities. It will also identify the key attributes necessary for small-scale fishers' response to vulnerabilities with particular attention to elements, modes, and orders of governance. And finally, my analysis will propose an initial governability model and how small-scale fisheries transition from vulnerability to viability can be achieved. Yeah, so this is in short about my research idea. I'm looking forward to hear more from my fellow colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Royal. Now I would like to invite Hapsari Ayu Kusumowardhani from Diponegoro University, Indonesia. To you, Hapsari.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello everyone, my name is Hapsari Ayu Kusumowardhani. I'm a V2V student from Diponegoro University, Indonesia. My research focus on the externalities on tourism, design alternative tourism, and will go with sustainable governance. My research place in Karimun Java and Panjang Island, Central Java Province, Indonesia. And contribution to V2V to understanding the vulnerability caused by tourism, and give recommendation what needs to be done to make transition from vulnerability to viability for coastal communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hapsari. It's wonderful. So now I would like to invite Edea Orobie Rodriguez Pelebe from the University of Cape Coast, Ghana. To you, Edea.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rodrigue Belebe from Ghana, the Africa Center of Excellence in Coastal Resilience. I'm actually a Beninese, but I'm residing in Ghana, working with this center at the University of Cape Coast. I'm involved in several research work at the center, and the one I want to mention is related to assessing the health risk related to pesticide used in crop production in around Benin coastal lagoons. And the aim of the objective is to, for the first time, analyze the concentration of pesticides in water, sediments, fish and oysters from this lagoon, and also determine the health and ecological risk associated to these pollutants. So currently we have collected data and we are analyzing them. At the end, we hope to provide data for manager in order to really well manage this ecosystem for the benefit of fish consumers and residing population. Another work I'm involved in currently is to assessing the fish farming practices in order to identify the climate smart one to be promoted among small scale farmers in Benin. So that is what I want to share with you concerning my work. And we aim at the end to improve the current status of small-scale fishermen as well as small-scale fish farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edea. And now I would like to pass on to Natasha Serrao from the University of Waterloo, Canada. She's having some difficulties in internet. So Natasha, are you here? If not, we can move to the next and whenever she comes back. Okay, now I would like to continue with Sabia Ahmed Tiba from the University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh. Sabia, if you're hearing me, please start.
You need to unmute yourself, Sabiha.
Sorry, I clicked that, but mistakenly it doesn't. So thank you, Seville, for giving me the floor. Hello, everyone. This is Sabir Ahmed from Center for Sustainable Development, University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh. And I'm an early career researcher of V2V Global Partnership. So I'm very excited to share some brief about our ongoing research. It is basically about climate change adaptation of small-scale fisheries in Bangladesh. And we are mainly focusing on the adaptation part, the best adaptation strategies that our countries of small-scale fishers are following. So this is basically a consolidated study. We are already done with the broad literature review and background studies. And for validating our data, we have also visited a field study for ground level study, and it is in the Moashkhali district. It is in the Moashkhali Tehsil of Coxbazar district of Bangladesh, and we are already done with the field visit. Now we are in the analysis process and moving to the result part. And for the V2B contribution, it is actually aligned with the V2B iAdapt template. So mainly the both long-term and short-term adaptation practices both are focusing on the research, and some other parts are also aligning with the V2B iAdapt concept with our research. So from my part, that is the all update I can give. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabia. And I'm seeing Natasha is here. So I would like to invite Natasha Serrao from the University of Waterloo, Canada, to talk about her research. Natasha, too. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Natasha, and I am in my second year at Waterloo, and I'm in the program Social and Ecological Sustainability. And my research will be based in Chilaka Lagoon, and I'm going to be focusing on the concept of keystone species. And a keystone species is a species that's important for both a fish and a human community. And I'm going to be taking a social ecological approach to looking at this. And my research is important because it allows us to know where to focus our conservation efforts, and it allows us to take more of a holistic approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I would like to thank all of you. It's really, really wonderful to hear all these voices that show the diversity of ideas, perspectives, interests, and motivations that exist within this network. I'm really, really proud of working among you all. All of these ideas, I believe, inspire us and help us to lay a strong foundation to do what we are set to do at the V2V Global Partnership. And that is why our students and early career researchers are one of the most important parts of this project. So at the end, I just wanted to inform you that the ones who spoke today were those who messaged us first and shows their interest in speaking at this event, but our student and early career researcher voices are not limited to only this. Due to the limited time we have, we compile all other voices together with the voices you just heard into one nice video and uploaded it on the V2V YouTube channel. I'm posting it now, the link to the chat section here. So please feel free to watch this nice video. Hope you enjoyed this session. Now I would like to pass it on to Derek again to continue with the agenda and open the floor. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Stabile, and well said. Yeah, I mean, all of our students in this partnership are really crucial. I'm just reflecting on the things I heard. So we're moving from things like mapping value chains to thinking about cultural keystone species to the challenges of governability and this transition from vulnerability to viability, to thinking about the links between small-scale fisheries and tourism, and the issues of pesticides and ecological risk and the connections to iAdapt. So you get a real sense of just the diversity of topics that everyone is engaged in. You get a sense of the theoretically rich sort of different entry points that our students are using. And also, of course, really empirically grounded in particular places. And I think we're really going to benefit from this research. So if you would encourage everyone to go check out that video of all the voices that Sevil's going to post as well. So that's great. We maybe have well, I think what I'd suggest we do is later on when we have the V2V sort of open interaction process, encourage others to jump in. If you have questions for our students, if other folks want to share, other students are on the call and want to share, please, well, you're welcome to do so. But for now, in the interest of time, maybe we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a bit of an open floor for country coordinators and others. Again, we're very informal, so please feel free to jump in. But what we thought we might do is just open things up here a little bit to hear from folks in the different countries about some of the big issues and challenges that are being experienced right now in the context of small scale fisheries. What are those challenges? What's new? What's emerging? So that's one thing. And then how and in what ways can our V2V partnership be used to better support some of the understanding of these issues and hopefully support some policy change or help take some action. So we wanted to open the floor for country coordinators and others that are involved in country-based activities to share their thoughts on some of these ideas in terms of, yeah, the big issues and what we can do as a partnership to move forward. We don't have a formal agenda for this part. We just wanted to open the floor for others to jump in. So I'm going to invite others to say a few words. If you want to just put your hand up, or you can indicate in the chat that you have something to share, that would be fantastic. Who wants to go first? I think I saw Samia out there.
Great, thanks.
Don't want to pick on you, but I know you've been thinking a little bit about this as well. So yeah.
Oh yes, hello everyone. Actually, it's your question that got me thinking. So it's that one thing that is right now the pressing issue, and to be honest, right now at this point in time, if you ask me, as you may know, we've just been having crazy major floods up in the northeastern region. Climate change is definitely a very overarching, looming, but specifically within that, we're having these crazy flash floods right now, which is not really expected now. It happens a bit later. And I have a team up there with the small scale fisheries that are working there, that live there and that are being affected by it. But the challenges that they talked about, it's still around the issues of their recognition and voice and their identity. And I feel that's one of the things that keeps on coming back to several of the vulnerabilities we look at when we talk about middlemen making more profits, or hazards fishermen face when out there with climate change and the kind of social protection they need. And then there's still this underlying issue of how do we give them more agency and a stronger social, I don't want to use just the word network, but what are those channels where we can give them more voice in different areas? So for us, we're working on blue growth, on climate change, within that, as well as on how do we make it the value chain of fisheries better, more profitable for them. And underneath these threads, there's always this thing around their agency. So I wonder at the policy level, what we can, from our work using IDAB, looking at viabilities on this particular issues on agency and voice that we can work on. At the moment, just as a overall in Bangladesh, our students are working on, as Sabia said, on at best adaptation practices. We have 2 students working specifically on the Munda community, on informal institutions, but specifically, can we look at agency in policy and bring that out a bit further? But that's my personal thoughts on this.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Samia. I mean, really interesting challenges, and yeah, sorry to hear about the flooding as well. I actually wasn't aware of that. So that's obviously a challenging dynamic, but yeah. Do others have similar sort of ideas or issues? I mean, the notion of agency and voice is pretty crucial. Other country contexts, this may be something that is a theme that is recurring as well. I'm happy to open the floor here for other country coordinators to jump in and share some of their ideas. This is the part of the program where we get to all have a chance to say a few things. So don't be shy.
Jump in one more time.
Sure,
Someone has spoken. Yeah. The other thing, will not necessarily related, but obviously there's always overlap with all this, is transboundary issues, which, you know, this flooding isn't just it's Assam and that part of Bangladesh have both been really heavily affected by the flooding, and the issues in that we're also facing, the Sundarbans looking at, you know, issues that they face there, the artisanal fisheries, is similar issues or others that in the India side is also facing. And I wonder if we can explore more, and I would like to explore more, you know, since we have these partnerships within V2V on how specifically in our case, Bangladesh and India, can we look at some joint areas of explore work, whether student exchange, ourselves talking, and adding to that, from Bangladesh, we are hosting a conference in October. We would like to bring some of this dialogue together to understand these transboundary issues, in our case, specifically India and Bangladesh. I'd love to hear from our colleagues in India more. You know, we'll discuss outside this meeting as well on how we can explore some of those, you know, issues that I'm sure are common for both that we can address. And I'll stop now.
Right. That's great. That's super. Thanks a lot, Samia. And yeah, the transboundary ideas is quite fascinating. Obviously, there may be some shared vulnerabilities and risks and issues, but then of course the governability challenge, the different governance systems, the complexities of transboundary, of managing and dealing with transboundary drivers of change, of course, become a really fertile ground for thinking about how we can better support small-scale fisheries. So yeah, I think that's a great thing to explore further as well. Others, feel free to jump in. We have a few minutes here.
I think Mr. Kapo will say something on behalf of Professor Akintola, who's unavoidably absent due to other issues at the university. So Mr. Kapo will say something. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Yes, this is Mr. Kapu. I'm actually a PhD student under Professor Akintola. So I'll just give a brief about what we've been doing in Nigeria so far. In Nigeria so far, we have been able to produce our country situational analysis reports, which has been published. We have also done the draft of our I-ADAPT case study. And then just recently, we had a small project, a national project with us, where we did, in conjunction with the FAO, on the implementation of the small-scale fisheries guideline. It was a 3-day national workshop and awareness program, where we had stakeholders from all over the country and even outside the countries. We had international organizations represented, like FAO, the International Collective Society of Fisheries, IUBA, AUI, and others. And we also had a government presence, such as the Federal Department of Fisheries, and even the special advisor, the Office of Special Advisor to the President on Sustainable Development Goals. And in this program, we were able to fashion out a steering committee for the proper implementation of the small-scale fisheries guidelines. And this will guide. And we also had the part of the highlights of the program was that the SDG has actually decided to incorporate into the small-scale fisheries, and they are willing to partner with us. So this is just a brief of the highlights which we have been able to do in Nigeria in tandem with the small-scale fisheries program, and which is also geared towards the V2V partnership. Thank you.
Hello, may I intervene, please? Aliu.
Yes, yeah, Aliu, go ahead.
Thanks for having organized this meeting. I have one question and one, yes, my question is related to this, is just to know what is the rationale in having a difference between, having a difference between, how you say, governance and policies, because for me, policies might be part of, for example, governance. As we are working on the same templates with the same methodology, I think it's very important that this concern must be shared with my colleague. That's the reason why, while documenting the templates, sometimes I had the problem. I told myself, do I have to consider policies separately from governance, or shall I integrate policies in governance as how you say the main umbrella? This is a question. The other point is more related to a concern I have, a preoccupation. And in connection with this work and this methodology we are all sharing as a platform, as a group, is, for example, and it's related to the vocabulary, the word viability. I'm telling myself, as we are from different disciplines, it should be very interesting with regard to what, because you have V2V have once say, propose, for example, training for some countries or members who are in the need. I think it's very important that in order to have the same, to look at the same direction as people coming from different cultural sphere, people coming from different, discipline, to have a common understanding of viability. What we think, even if we can't have a common understanding, having just, how do you say, I don't know, some mean strategy by from V2V to see what we mean by viability, for example. If you don't have the same understanding, for example, it's very difficult, for example, to ask all contributors to just, while working, I adapt template, to make some proposal, regarding how to transit from vulnerability to viability. For example, if for me, given, because it depends on someone's perspective. For me, for example, as a social scientist, I, despite all this risk and this vulnerability, I am part of people who say that, okay, still now, small-scale fisheries is viable. Because I'm considering other aspects of small-scale fisheries beyond the economic dimension. I hope you get my concern, and it's a very important as we wish once, because we are working step by step. First time we had some information concerning the project. Then we have this fantastic, template I really appreciate. I don't have any problem with this template. I even maybe try by contributing to even document some issues that was not, foreseen in the template, but I'm okay with this. But at the same time, it's very important. I think that this template is a step, and if I'm not wrong, I think we are all dreaming, in once, ending in a TD approach. And if we are willing to end to TD approach, we need to have the same understanding of concept of vocabulary. This is very important. So a training from V2V should be really something very important. Sorry for having been so long.
All right, thanks a lot, Ali. You raised, I think, two really good points, and I open the floor for conversation on these, but I think they get to where we are in fact going with the partnership. And the first one is about the language we use. I think just terminology. and thinking about the connections between policy and governance. And I think from the standpoint, from the template anyway, there's a lot of connections there, and there's no need to separate them. Obviously, policy is the application of the principles and values we have in a governance context, and governance gives us a bit more of a theoretical way to think about things as well. But you know, Alida, you can jump in if you want and maybe clarify that. I would say that you raised the point about language and terms, and one of the initiatives that we've just recently started is this idea of creating a bit of a V2V glossary of terms, so something that we all share, so that we can share some common language. So I think that's a great point you make about that. And the other thing about this idea of what viability means, and I think that's really what we want to work on and try and understand. And so we started off with this general idea of viability, and we use it to guide our work. But as we go through the template process, and as we get more involved in the detailed case study work, now we get to come back together again and actually say, well, what do we mean by viability? And this is the opportunity for us as a group to work on really defining and making sense of that term, because I don't think we have a good idea of it. So 2 excellent points, and I think exactly where we're going with our future work as well. So I don't know, Prateep, if you want to say a few words to that as well, just to clarify, feel free to do so.
No, yeah, thanks, Ali. You raised good concerns and good challenges, and that is exactly what we are working on and will continue to work on. So there is no definitive answers, as Derek already mentioned, and others would agree. The search for viability is not, going to produce a one-time fixed result. And we have been saying that in all our discussions, that we don't understand viability or vulnerability in one particular way. There are multiple faces of this, concepts and terms that needs to be understood. And different initiatives within V2V try to capture those understanding. So, for example, the situational analysis brought out multiple ways in which countries understand in the own context of work these 2 terms. And in a systems approach, there is not going to be a time when absolutely it is either viable or vulnerable. There are components or elements of that system which are going to be more vulnerable, and others might be moving more towards viability. So in that process-oriented work, and transdisciplinary work, you need to capture in a more dynamic notion or understanding or definition of vulnerability and viability, rather than an absolute understanding of vulnerability and viability. And that's the search we are interested in as a group. Yeah, but thank you for raising those 2 points. Thank you.
Thanks. And I see we have hands. I think Maniba, you had your hand up first, and then we'll go to Rashid.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great to be here. I'm just going back to, I'm not joining this conversation about glossary and terms. I'm just going back to what the question was in terms of vulnerability and viability. And I just want to flip it a bit. I think that sometimes there's the intention to make small-scale fisheries more viable, and I'm using technology. So we, for example, use sea technology as a means to make small-scale fisheries a little bit more viable. I think it's also important that in the next phase of our work, that we also need to look critically at these interventions. And I've been thinking about 3 things, and especially this that happened during COVID. I found that the cold chain and ice has decreased the role of women in fisheries. This is particularly in South Africa. And I wonder if this happens in other parts of the V2V community, whether the cold chain, the commodification of the product is also a means of making fishes more viable if we look at it from a particular lens, but indirectly or directly, it eliminates the role of women, the important role of women. Women plays an important role in the post-harvest. So if you want the fish as quickly as possible to your plate, as fresh as possible to your plate, that means that there's a lot of vulnerability that you create through that. So I'm very interested in thinking about, you know, issues around cold chain and technology, and to what extent it might be, the intention might be viability. It might be viability for some, but it also means vulnerability for others. And I think that sometimes the line between vulnerability to viability is often not necessarily, it can also go backwards. And I think maybe an illustration of, you know, you've been vulnerable and now you become viable, and suddenly you're an elite capturer or a gatekeeper and you make others vulnerable. So for me, it's also about now, instead in looking at viability and issues about viability, we must also critically unpack that viability and what does that mean for small-scale fisheries. A big issue in South Africa is still the blue economy and the blue seismic surveys that were in small-scale fishers area. And as South Africans, we like to litigate, and that is what we've done. And we've put on pause the seismic surveys. But while that is on pause and a judgment, another company is coming. So I think there's also, you know, where you can put development on pause, but it's not necessarily stopping development. And I think that also impacts. So the big issue in South Africa is still the blue economy issue, oil, gas, seismic surveys, the demand for energy, because we are in constant lockdowns, is also a big issue, and often the space of small scale and access of small scale fisheries are threatened. Another threat is also marine protected areas. A big threat, and I wonder in the V2V community if marine protected areas is also coming up as a threat that makes fishers more vulnerable. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maneva. Yeah, well, an excellent point, of course, about the whole notion of viability and what it really means, and that it's not an easy concept to wrap our heads around. I think the three points you made are really relevant in different contexts. And I'm thinking sort of the unexpected, well, the decreased role of women in fisheries as an unexpected outcome, or perhaps expected, but it seems unexpected to me, and from because of COVID, the blue economy discourse as well, and even in the Canadian context, is very poorly framed, and it has all sorts of potentially very negative implications for small scale fishers in a Canada context as well. So really curious about how that resonates in other contexts, and this notion of MPAs and conservation discourse generally. These are all three really interesting themes that cut across, I would imagine, what's happening in different country contexts. So thanks for bringing those three themes out. Rashid, you wanted to add to that or add something else?
Yeah, mine is a very, pedestral comment. It's not as deep as Maneva's. And this is, Maneva, that's one of your excellent qualities. This always sounding the alarm and making people aware that things are not all just good, right? Always trying to check and make sure that the unintended consequences don't neutralize what you are hoping to do. You have a good intention, but that can hit back. So thank you, and that's always a good thing. Now, my comment is, I just want to say this because unfortunately I have to leave in the hour, so I wanted to say something. One is a good thing. It was really good to hear the students talk about their work. So congratulations to the group and the diversity and all that. This was mentioned already. So that's nice. The more we get students to take on platforms and share their ideas, the better, right? Because that's the training ultimately. So that's good. The other thing is it Kapo, the Nigerian guy who told you, made me to think of this. And I'm thinking about practically recording everything that is being done. Yeah. And you know where Derek and Pratik from Ocean Canada, right? The project CV, because Capo mentioned a number of things they have done, which actually connects to this project. And please capture all of those. They're really powerful. When you look at it later, you yourself will be impressed, right? What has been done by people. So, all right, these are my easy, simple, non-intellectual comments, but thanks for all the work and bringing up issues that many of us don't actually talk about. So it's good to see this. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Rashid. And you always bring lots of great perspectives and ideas. So we very much appreciate it. Absolutely. I mean, the many spin-off projects and links to other initiatives and projects which we get to connect with, and in turn we are connected with through all the work in the different country contexts is a huge part of this as well, and it really amplifies. And that's the V2V is in many ways here to help us amplify already existing work that's being done. Not necessarily just start new things, but there's many things that are already happening, and the V2V project is there to further amplify that as well. So a really great point. Open the floor for maybe a few more minutes if anybody else has a few other things to add. If there's some interesting things happening, Moniba brought out some really crucial themes and issues that are taking place in the South African context in particular. If anybody else finds that those resonate in their part of the world as well, please feel free to share your ideas. Okay, well, we're a little quieter today than often we are, but that's okay. And we've had many online conversations that have been really productive as well, and that's just the nature of how we do things online. I see Alarm, you have your hand up. Feel free to go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Salom Janto from University of Cape Coast, Ghana. And thank you for the opportunity to share the things that are happening along our coast. Well, I've listened to most of the presenters, but I don't know whether if this particular thing is experienced along their coast, and that's the issue of seaweeds. This is something that is so much felt along the western side of Ghana in terms of our coastal areas. And per some research that has been done so far, most of the fishers are of the view that it's something that is causing a lot of problems to them in terms of their livelihoods. When they go fishing, instead of catching fish, they rather catch more of the seaweeds that are dotted along these coastal regions. So this is something I want to share with the group as well. So you can look at that aspect as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Salom. And just to clarify, so is the seaweed issue also, does it cause a problem for gear as well? Does it lead to gear damage and things like that?
Yes, it does. So it destroyed their nets, it destroyed their outboard motors, and even sometimes it can even lead to their boat capsizing in the sea.
Great.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I'm also with Salom. We work at the same place. Just to add up to what she is saying, the sargassum, the seaweed in particular, sargassum is The funny thing is the community members are attributing it to the discovery of oil. They are saying they were experiencing sargassum, but it was in minute quantity, very small quantities. But after Ghana discovered oil, there has been an increase in the number of sargassum load on their shores every morning when they wake up. And the confusion is that they think they are blaming the oil companies for this. They are blaming the oil companies for this, and we are trying to change their minds by telling them that no, the sargassum were already coming before Ghana even discovered oil, but the confusion is still there and it hasn't been easy. Just a little contribution.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the elaboration, that's helpful. I think I saw another hand up. Yeah, Feluke?
Thank you very much. I was going to just add to what the last two speakers just said. We have the issue of water hyacinth in Nigeria, and we also have the issue of recent sargassum. But one thing I know that is happening in Lagos State University is that there's a center now working on sargassum to see how the positive angles, the uses of sargassum can be encouraged, because the effect on the small-scale fisheries got to a point that some communities believed that it was a spirit that was attacking them because they couldn't go to sea, especially the women, and fish was not coming in for them to smoke and sell and make a living. And so they thought it was a spirit and actually went on to do some sacrifices to drive the spirit away until they have been educated that it wasn't any spirit at all. So we have a center in Lagos State University under the Department of Fisheries that is actually working on how to spread the positive uses of sargassum so that more people can look at it from that angle. And there was an international conference on sargassum that took place at the university. I just wanted us to know the information. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much.
Yeah, it is good that there was an effort to educate and kind of get the local community to understand that this is maybe not any spirit, right? Okay. Were you part of that effort? How did you do that? Because
no, I wasn't part of it. It was when we were going to have that conference, because I was the rapporteur. I was one of the rapporteurs for the conference. And so it's in speaking with Lagos State Fisheries, because first of all, there was a confusion of sargassum with water hyacinth. Some people had it, some did not have it. And so when we were trying to put together that conference for waters that are inland, that you can't even have sargassum there, they were confusing sargassum with water hyacinth. So in educating them, because we have extension agents and liaison officers, in going to those communities, they were able to tell them, this is what you have here. Sargassum turns brown and it's like this. Water hyacinth is different. And so in telling them that, they now told them that they are not even spirit. I actually spoke to some of the women on phone. I didn't go there. And they told me, oh, it's a spirit that has attacked them. They are not getting fish and all that and all that. So it's really the liaison officer in Lagos State who had to tell them that this is something that is coming, is water current that is bringing it to our shores, and it's affecting them for now, and that we are the research, the university is doing something about it. to find out, because in other countries, people have used sargassum, made money from sargassum, the different uses, medicinal uses, and so on, and that we also can do that in Nigeria. We shouldn't see it as a spirit, and that there was no need for sacrifices to be made. So I spoke to the women.
You're laughing. So they should turn the spirit into something good.
Yes.
Use the sargassum. Yeah, okay. I think I have to go now. You know, I like this conversation because that is people have told me, why do I worry about sustainability? God will put the fish in there, so forget it. So when I heard you say this, I kind of connect to that. And it's all about education and trying hard to let people understand that, you know, processes lead to distance. There's no any hidden spirit doing this. Maybe others have a different view, but okay, thank you. I have to run now. This is interesting. Derek and Pratib and all, thank you. Moneva, good to hear your voice again as usual. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Rashid.
Thanks, Rashid. Good friends. Yeah, take care. Bye.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's really interesting, and actually it brings me back. Look at this idea that you raised. Also brings me back to what Samia was saying about this the transboundary dimension of some of these issues, and I know certainly sargassum in the Caribbean is also a real issue for small scale fishers. They've confronted some of the same challenges that was pointed out earlier with damages to gear and engines and things like that. And of course, a big impact on coastal communities and tourism efforts. So yeah, that's a real transboundary dilemma when it comes to sargassum. So very interesting. Okay, don't see any more hands up at this particular point, but maybe Pratip, it's time just to turn it over to you, and you can give a little bit of a summary of some of the highlights of our work together over the past year, and a little bit of an outlook for what's ahead.
I think we're going to the working group co-leads.
Oh, geez. I've not done my role very well. Yes, sorry. We still have an agenda item to summarize briefly from the working group co-leads. So absolutely. So who wants to go first? We don't have a particular order. I know Jessica Blythe can't be here, so Pratip, do you want to maybe quickly talk about the knowledge mobilization working group, and then we'll go on from there.
Sorry, I was mute. Jessica was not able to be here, so she sent her regrets, but the only message that she wanted to convey to the team is that the knowledge mobilization working group is planning for a workshop later in the year to which everybody would be invited to talk about the importance of knowledge mobilization in the context of vulnerability to viability. And she is already speaking to some of the facilitators and people that really are engaged in this kind of work from Brock University, where she is based. And she would come back with a plan and share the plan with all of us and invite all of us to be part of that workshop. A real opportunity to highlight the importance of knowledge mobilization that relates so nicely with all other working groups, because the knowledge that is co-created needs to be disseminated, needs to be mobilized across all levels and all scales, and that's the important work that particular working group has taken up to do under the leadership of Jessica Blythe from Brock University. So that was a message from Jessica. Back to you, Derek.
Okay, super. Maybe Alida, we can call on you to talk a little bit about the iAdapt working group.
Thank you, Derek, and greetings to everyone. It's wonderful to hear all what's happening around the countries and with the students' projects. It's very, very inspiring. Thank you. So the iAdapt working group has been pretty active through the project, as I think you're all aware. I want to start by recognizing that we have a group of us who are now co-chairing this workshop together. So Priscilla Lopez had to step down for other reasons. And since then, Maniba Isaacs, who we have all heard from, Yinji Lee from Japan, and Samista Patanaik from India have agreed to co-chair, co-lead this working group with me. And Anna Carolina, of course, is fully involved and our postdoc support for this working group too. So we've been working in a much more collaborative fashion over the last year, which has been fabulous. Both Maniba and Yunji have prior experience with that, with iAdapt, and Sarmista has a wealth of experience in the social sciences side, which he also brings to our group. So it's been a very great collaboration. The main things we've been doing over this past year, I think you're all aware of this too, are the series of one-to-one meetings that we had at the beginning of this year. And that was super useful to understand better where each country is at with their, their big V2V case studies, and talking about how we would use iAdapt to explore those case studies further. So we've been digesting and using that information. We've since had a follow-up meeting, with example, for the Indonesia team, which was excellent. They sought some additional training. And just to flag, if anyone else would like to have a more one-to-one interaction with the iAdapt team, we're very happy to do so. In terms of future plans then, you will have seen emails from Anna Carolina indicating that we are requesting that iAdapt templates be submitted to the working group by the end of July, the 31st of July, and we recognize that not all countries are able to completely fill out the template, but we're asking you to complete it to the extent you can, based on existing knowledge of your case study. And the reason we're asking for this is that, as you know, in our work plan, we've been planning a synthesis workshop as a sort of culmination of this first phase. And so that workshop, with hoping to have in-person synthesis workshop at the end of this year. Now, it may end up being two separate workshops, one for Africa and one for Asia. And we're still working out those details, so stay tuned, but that's where we're heading for. So in preparation for that, we're asking the iAdapt templates by the 31st of July, and then we plan to have a kind of like an online working seminar in August, so we can discuss the templates, give initial feedback, and then better prepare for these in-person meetings later in the year. Also in preparation for that, we are planning a webinar at the end of July, where we've invited a couple of the country teams who have made great progress with our iAdapt template to talk about the work that they've been done. And then, of course, we can have a question answer, find out more, people can ask questions, what their challenges were, etc., etc. So that's a brief summary of our current, what we've done for the last year and our current plans. But I would also invite Anna Carolina, Maniba, Yinzi, or Sanista if I've forgotten something or you want to add something too. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Alida. Just leave some space here in case somebody else wanted to jump in and add anything.
Can I just say something that maybe Alida missed? Also that we are planning a session at the World Small Scale Fisheries Congress in Cape Town. So that would also be part of the iAdapt, and I'm sure Prateep, you will speak about that later. But I think it's getting excited. We're all getting excited that we might see you all in person, or people from the region in person in Cape Town. Thank you.
Thank you, Maniba. That was a very big oversight on my part. Thank you very much. Yes, we've just submitted this session, and we're really hopeful that as many of our colleagues can contribute to that session as possible, particularly, of course, from Africa, where the conference is.
Excellent. Super. Okay, great. So maybe I can go next to the V2V Information System Working Group, and I see Priyadarshi, you're here, so welcome.
Thank you, Derek, and V2V team. It is great attending these meetings and interacting with all of you here. I will just take maybe 2 to 3 minutes to give a quick overview, and I will request Ilham to flesh out with more recent developments that have taken place. So the information systems team started with a series of inquiries. We attended the various meetings we shared the basic idea of what we are planning to do with everybody. And Ilham has prepared a detailed work plan, which he has shared in one of the last meetings. We also Ilham also has reviewed the IADEP template, and we are trying to find out how we can interact with them and bring this information system to be of use in the context of IADEP, how it can assist the IADEP work. Then we also went for a review of other existing information systems which are relevant for this particular context. And we reviewed some of the other database and some of the templates that we have created at IIT Kharagpur, rudimentary information systems based on some other project that we're doing. So one of the interesting things that emerged, I'm not going to go into the details, is that we realized that what we are going to work on is going to be a hybrid system with multiple sources, multiple dimensions, and multiple levels. Training and capacity building guidelines and workshops will have to take place. We will have to travel a little bit for that and connect with some of the country teams. Pradeep, Simran, and I, we have been discussing a little about that, and we will be doing that maybe in the next 3 to 4 months. We would like to focus on specific case studies, India and a few other countries where we can work closely, and Africa and some of the other places, and collaboration with the other working teams. We will initiate that process. However, one of the initial things, the first things that we have done so far is there are a lot of things I will not go into, but we had a feeling that the web page that has been created is probably the first thing that we should concentrate on. And as a pilot project, there was a brainstorming. We decided that we could try to automate and make the entire process automated for one aspect to begin with as a pilot project of the web page we have, which is the Photo of the Week initiative. So there are, we had a little discussion with Anna, and Seville also joined in at a later point of time. The students are working together, scholars, that contacting, receiving and reviewing, storing, revising, publishing, and advertising. These are the 6 different functionalities we found in even this simple thing of having the Photo of the Week. And we decided that as we brainstormed, we find that it could be a very interesting pilot initiative, which we could take up within the next 6 weeks, where you see that we could try to automate it and classify not just the Photo of the Week, but the various other photos which come and include their metadata and create a image map based on that. So with various things that we would like to do in the larger context of V2V system, a kind of a small prototype involving some of these activities, we would like to start off with a pilot project. And then, of course, we will be connecting with the various teams. So this is the first step we have taken. On 12th, I believe the team will be converging the small team. They'll be working together. Within 6 weeks, probably they will have a prototype ready, and we'll see how it's working. And then, of course, we'll be connecting with the various other teams to take the things forward. So very briefly, this is just to give you an idea that we are trying to see how many of the, because the major part of the information as of now is in the web page, how different small components of the web page could be automated, and the entire process of posting could be also automated. So that's what we are working on right now. And although it might seem like a very simple project, the idea is that this learning would help us scale up and also take up other fascinating and challenging areas as we go ahead with this. So this briefly, if there is anything else to add, I will request Lam to just put in the points that I might have missed, given the very short period of time that we have for this discussion. Lam, would you like to add anything?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Professor Patnaik. I think you overviewed everything very well. And we are going to work on the photos of the week during the next few weeks, and it would be ready for everyone to use. And I think that would be a fantastic way to start with the information system. It will produce very nice and very comprehensive overview of what is happening in different countries. And from there, maybe by the end of the fall, we can have the prototype of the information system, which can be tested by the country teams. And if you have any suggestions or questions about the information system working group, I'm always here to help and answer. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Ilham. The idea is to scale up. We'll start with something small, but then we will scale up, and we will, once the prototype is ready, multiplying and making modifications will not probably be much of a challenge, but we want to start small. That's the point we would like to make. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Great, thanks a lot, Priyadarshi and Ilham. Excellent update, lots of activity and really exciting things that you have planned. So really, really great to hear about that. The other working group is the TD, or Transdisciplinary Capacity Development Working Group. Tana's not here, I don't think, on the call. I know she was in transit. So I'm not sure if Prateep, if you have a quick update from her, or if that's something we'll do a little bit later.
Yeah, not exactly, but yes, there are plans that see and swing and of where both the co-leads of that particular working group are making, and so we'll hear more on that from them very, very soon. But the capacity development work is integrally, a part of all or most of the other working groups. A lot of things that I adapt and case study and information system, knowledge mobilization are talking about involves components of capacity development. So like information system group was talking about connecting with IADAPT working group. So the capacity development group would like to connect with all of the working groups. Therefore, there could be a more integrated and synthetic plan that could be could develop. But at the same time, there are many activities in the area of capacity development that have taken place and will be continuing to take place. For example, the field school that I will talk about in a bit, which is a major initiative within the V2V Global Partnership with regards to capacity development. So we'll wait to hear more from the co-leads of the TD Capacity Development Group in a few weeks or a few months, and there would be a concrete plan that is already emerging. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Prateep. And the other working group is the synthesis or integration working group, and that's nominally, well, Anna Carolina has been taking an important lead role, and myself involved in some things, but and I think in our view right now, everyone is a lead of the synthesis working group. We all have an opportunity to do this synthesis work. For example, and Anna Carolina, you can jump in and add things as well as we go along here, but we're close to having a complete set of the situational analysis working papers. That's the first synthesis efforts that we really engaged in our partnership, and really productive, fantastic looking working papers. And thanks to Seville and Anna Carolina and others for making those available on our website and open access, and really a great resource for us as we move forward. Our first V2V global synthesis manuscript is in the works, and many of you have been involved in that. This will be a peer-reviewed publication that we'll be submitting shortly, which really reflects our first effort to synthesize and make sense of some of the big drivers and challenges associated with vulnerability, and thinking a little bit about what does viability perhaps look like, and engaging, just to go back to Maniba, what you're saying with this tension between these notions of vulnerability and viability and how they interact, and it's a very dynamic relationship. So that's taking place. Looking ahead, there's over the next year, there's already lots of things that are happening, and really a really strong foundation for us to really begin to do more synthesis work so that we can mobilize knowledge. And obviously lots of links across the different working groups here, which is a key part of our efforts. But we have the IADAPT activities and the completion of the templates, as Alida talked about, and the first synthesis process that's associated with that. We have all sorts of detailed case study work really now underway. And our student voices that we heard earlier are really reflective of that. So lots of great things happening, work with our partners as well. So we really are in the stage now of thinking about how can we develop a strategy to do some of this synthesis work in a comprehensive way, and doing it at multiple levels. And I think that's what we want to be thinking about. So it's doing it within the country context, doing it regionally, and of course, doing it globally. We're a global partnership, and we have lots to say and many lessons to share with the broader community. And so we want to think about how we can best do that. And I think a big part of our synthesis work will be to really think through carefully what these ideas of vulnerability and viability mean, and ultimately how we can support better actions from the local to global scales. So we have a big agenda with the synthesis working group, but it's going to be very inclusive, very open, and be, hopefully get as many people involved in doing synthesis work, some of which will be emerging from the Secretariat and from us, but much of it really, the opportunity for us, we believe, is to do the synthesis work within the context of different countries where the impact can be most direct, and that's what we want to try and support. So that's what our agenda is going to be, and really developing that strategy over the next little while. So that's a quick update on the working group activities. We have maybe. Well, I'm looking at the time. I know we have a limited amount of time, so maybe what we can do is, if you have any questions about that, we can open up the floor towards the end to share some of those questions and other ideas to support some of this work. But at this point, let's maybe turn over to the next agenda item, which is to highlight some of our work and do the outlook for next year. And Prateep, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you once again, Derek, and thanks to everyone, for sharing their, ideas and experience and perspectives. Really, so hearing what we heard from our graduate students and early career researchers from all the countries and the working group, leads, co-leads, it provides a really wonderful perspective of, how what is the pathway, in terms of our journey, that we have set for ourselves from vulnerability to viability in the context of small-scale fisheries communities. I mean, this is an ongoing work, but I want to kind of start my brief presentation with a reminder of what we started with and continue to do. So the goal we set for ourselves was not just to engage in vulnerability and viability, but the journey or the process, the transition from vulnerability to viability, and that is what matters. And we had, in response to Ali's intervention, we had some discussion already, so I'll not focus too much on that. But the key here is to engage in this process of vulnerability to viability transitions in small-scale fisheries communities in the selected places that we are present, but also globally, through our synthesis and policy and advocacy and other kinds of, work. In order to make the vulnerability to viability transition possible, we set a few objectives for ourselves. So the first one is how can we co-create and co-produce the knowledge that can assist in the work of the transition from V2V. And then we heard from the information systems group, and what do we do with the knowledge? We need to process the knowledge further, and that is the second objective of creating a repository in what we call the information system, where all this co-produced knowledge will go in terms of further analysis, further processing, further sharing, so that we can use that knowledge in the transition that we have visualized for us, for the communities. The third one is capacity, capacity that is required to engage in this transition process and making it a possibility, making it a reality. The fourth one is knowledge mobilization, and as you might have already realized, 4 of our working groups, 5 of our working groups, and the 5th one I just missed, is the analysis, synthesis, and integration group, which Derek was talking about. So all these 5 are addressed through the 5 working groups, and They are not standalone working groups or, working in isolation from each other. We also heard that, each of the working groups are connected in multiple ways with each other. And therefore, the transition that we are talking about in terms of vulnerability to viability is in some ways or many ways, a product of the interactions and the integration of all the work that are going to be done and are being done by the working groups itself. And in order to do that, we see this particular partnership, hovering around or relying on people, institutions, and partnership in multiple places. And we all know that we have a governance structure that we built that is multi-tier, starting right at the country level with multiple countries and regional teams, to working groups, to a secretariat that helps this global process in multiple ways. And I'll talk about that in a bit more detail. And we also have a conceptual methodological framework that is helping us, guiding us in doing the transition work. At this point, I was presenting to another forum, and then I just kind of brought together some of the facts and figures about our initiative and our partnership. At this point, we are an integrative team of 121 scientists, practitioners, policy, community actors, involves 38 universities, 22 government and research institutions, 25 NGOs and civil society organizations, more than 65 graduate students. That includes 22 PhD, 41 masters, and undergraduate students, and HQPs, including postdocs, 60. We started with, of course, funding from CERC, which is 2.5 million, but also generous contributions, matching contributions from all our partners that makes this project in terms of monetary value 7.3 million, and I will talk about where are we in terms of the matching grant and all of that, and we are currently based in 26 countries, covering 6 continents, and it's growing. We're writing to CERC to add new members and new partners over the last several months. So these numbers are growing, which is really great, not only in terms of just showing that we as a project are growing. That's probably not that meaningful compared to saying that there is a critical mass and there is a critical group of people and institutions that are getting interested in the viability and vulnerability to viability work. And of course, this is a geographical representation of where we are based. All our countries are in Asia and Africa. That's in the bottom image, where we are doing in-depth V2V case studies and IADAPT case studies. That work will continue, but also globally, we have collaborators and partners that are based in multiple other places outside Asia and Africa, and that makes us a real global partner with the not only the interest but also the ability to influence policy, influence governance arrangements around small-scale fisheries at a global scale itself. So, I talked about the objectives. There is a description of those objectives, and I'm not going to go into that in detail. We all already know, but the objectives are related to knowledge, information system, a repository of the co-produced knowledge, transdisciplinary capacity development, and synthesis to engage in processes of developing novel governance arrangements and policy impacts. So, we have heard from our countries, in terms of, the issues and challenges and the interesting work that they are doing. We have heard from our co-leads of the working groups about the interesting and the important work that they are engaged, and also working with all other teams and all other, members of V2V Global Partnership. I am speaking from the perspective of the Global Secretariat, and of course we are a small team that includes Derek, myself, Seville, Anna, and Faroshat, who is a part-time, student who is working with us to support all the work. But also at Waterloo, we have multiple other co-applicants and collaborators that include Simran Singh, who is a co-lead of the information system group. We have Andrea Collins, we have Jeremy Pittman, and others that we work with. So from the perspective of the Global Secretariat, of course, our focus is on strengthening the V2V initiatives that you have just heard from our countries and the working group co-leads. Broadly, our work focuses on focused in the last 2 years or so on the governance and management aspects, the partnership and collaboration building aspects, research and innovation, knowledge resources, and I'll talk about that at length, in a minute. And also, supporting events as, actions and communication, not only within the partnership itself, but beyond the partnership, connecting with multiple other important actors and players in the context of small-scale fisheries. In the past year or so, we already heard about this. At a country level, we have been actively collaborating with our country teams on a number of fronts. That includes working with the country teams in terms of their country team composition, because initially we had started with the idea that these teams would comprise of academic institutions and civil society institutions and also government institutions. So that composition is important in terms of doing more inclusive work on small-scale fisheries. So building those teams and also building the leadership in the specific context of the countries was something that we collaborated with our countries, V2V countries, and also collaborated on graduate student and research personal recruitment and as part of that team building and leadership building effort. Research plans and budgets were finalized, and we kind of in our work involved collaborating with our teams in developing those plans and the budgets and finalizing those. And that led to the finalization of memorandum of understanding or the agreements, and also making the resources, financial resources available to do the transition from vulnerability to viability work, and interactions with all country teams, as Alida already mentioned, one-to-one meetings and all of that. So that process was also supported. At a working group level, I'm not going to repeat what we already heard in a very wonderful way from all our co-leads, but our work also from the Secretariat involved working with each of the working groups and facilitating and being a part of the rich process that each one of these working groups have embarked upon. So our work does not only limit itself to providing the resources, both human resources and financial resources that are required to make this work of the working groups effective, but also being intellectual partners of each of these working groups. So our team was actively involved in the work of these working groups, and we already heard about those. So more specifically over the last year, and I will take a couple more minutes to give you a snapshot of what we have been up to from the V2V Global Secretariat in the last 1 year. I know that's basically since we reported last year, July 6th, to you. So on the management and coordination and major documents reporting and project initiatives, we reported last July that we had submitted the milestone report. So milestone report becomes a really guiding document for us to make progress. So we are referring to it multiple times as we progress towards the next target, which is the midterm review next year. So we completed the annual contribution summaries, as you may remember, so SORC requires, because it's a partnership grant, SORC requires that 35% of the 2.5 million be contributed as matching contributions in kind and cash by the partners, by the members of V2V Global Partnership. And we are in year 2, and the figures are very promising. So this year and last year together, this year we have achieved a matching contribution of 328,601 Canadian dollars cash, and 428,000 dollars Canadian in kind. And combined with last year's matching contribution, we are already 39% of the 2.5 million as against the required 35%. So which is very promising, not only from a factual or point of view to say that these are the numbers, but also this signifies the level of partnership, level of engagement and commitment from the partners that are engaged in the V2B transition work itself. So that's a symbol of our unity. That's a symbol of our progress towards the objectives and goals we have set. It's a symbol of, again, the commitment to the small scale fisheries viability work that we have taken up together. So and in the last 1 year, we have completed transfer agreements. The MOUs or agreements have been signed with more than 20 institutions across Asia and Africa. And to all those institutions, transfer of funds have already taken place. We are actually getting into second installment of transfers. In the last week, we started that with 2 institutions. So it's not only about planning the work, but also putting in place systems, processes, and policies and arrangements that can assist the work that we have planned. And that includes, of course, this transfer agreements, also transfer of funds and resources to these countries. Many initiatives were taken up centrally, and they have been mentioned already by various speakers in the last 1 hour or so. And I'm going to quickly highlight some of that because from the Secretariat, we initiated these activities, and in collaboration with our members and in collaboration with our countries, we were able to continue these activities in a very, very strong way. The first initiative is the Photo of the Week initiatives. It is a really nice platform for people to come forward, in terms of, telling their part of the story, in the context of their work itself. Those photos are very powerful in terms of, what they represent. These photos are very powerful and meaningful in the way that they tell parts or the whole story about small-scale fisheries in the specific context, and these are available, on the website. Every Wednesday, by the end of the day, we post a photo from a particular country. It's not only restricted to the V2V countries, but we already have contributions globally from other interested people in the V2V work. So please visit, and this is an initiative which creates at least 52 images of vulnerability to viability work from multiple contexts over a period of time, over 1 year period of time. And we have been doing this since 2020, and this is one of our first initiatives, and it is continuing to give us the meaning that we want to bring to small-scale fisheries. The second initiative that is going strong and bringing us together in terms of another platform is the V2V Commons, which is our official newsletter, where it is possible to see contributions from everybody in V2V to talk about their achievements, their concerns, their challenges, and their future plans, and many other aspects of their work in multiple sections within the V2V Commons. And this is a bi-monthly newsletter that we are able to facilitate with the help of all our members. And I invite you all to visit the website where these are all posted, but also you receive this through an email as soon as we publish it every 2 months. The third initiative we have been busy doing is our one of our flagship initiatives, which is the V2V thematic webinar series, which we started in 2021 January, and we are going strong in our second year. And you can see the richness of the webinar series in terms of the diversity of topics, the diversity of speakers, and the diversity of small-scale fisheries and coastal community context they represent in bringing theoretical, practical, and policy-oriented perspectives to the small-scale fisheries vulnerability to viability and transition work. And we have every intention to continue this initiative as long as we can. And sometimes we look at all of these different talks as part of this platform of webinar series as the multiple phases of vulnerability and viability in small scale fisheries. And we have big plans to take it forward in terms of collating, synthesizing, integrating all of these thoughts and ideas from the speakers into multiple different products so that we can use it on a continuous basis. In addition to the webinars, thematic webinars, we have a series of project webinars. As you can see, for example, we collaborated with certain other groups to do webinars on qualitative methods, Jotero training and Vivo training for our, especially our graduate students and early career researchers, but also being part of, as collaborators of global forums such as the V2V Global Partnership World Fisheries Day celebrations and other initiatives with TPTI, DFM, CCRN, and Ocean Canada, and other kinds of forums. So these are webinars that are available on the website as well, and they address multiple capacity development, knowledge needs of V2V work. Another flagship initiative is our V2V working paper series. Derek already mentioned this, and then the synthesis paper that is coming out of this. The different colors you see on the cover page represent the different types of or themes that they cover. The blue one is our working papers that capture the situational analysis work that our teams did. They are still being published, because we have a few more to finish up. And the orange and brown one that you see is a working paper that captures different other research activities as part of our teams. And then the green one is going to capture the student contributed working papers, and this is a really wonderful and meaningful and very important resource that is being created within the V2V Global Partnership to capture the stories, capture the research, and the wealth of knowledge that is being created within, and this is being used as an initial platform for our people to publish as their research as working papers before they go into more formal, more bigger platforms at a global scale. And then, of course, we are working on toolkits. The first toolkit that is going to come out later this year is going to be the V2B Rethinking Toolkit on Coastal Sustainability and Development. Of course, it comes from our online field school last year, and we will be creating a lot more policy and governance and practice-oriented toolkits as part of our work. And I think, this is my last but one slide to mention that, we have been organizing a field school on the Bay of Bengal coast in Chilika Lagoon over the last several years before even V2V came into existence. That Derek and me have been, have been organizing with IIT and Nirman, two of our partners in India. And last year we did it online. This year again in August. We are having our first in-person after 2 years of gap field school in Bay of Bengal. We have already written to all of you, and you are most welcome to nominate your graduate students and early career researchers to come and join us in Bay of Bengal, Chilika Lagoon as part of this particular field school. It is a nice platform for people, for early career researchers and students to come and engage in first-hand, engagement of, in small-scale fisheries context, and also start, interacting, with other participants, and see the real world in terms of the small-scale fisheries activities, and spend some time in the field learning about V2V, transitions. And I'm sorry. And in the past year, several conferences and forums that we took ourselves to, includes the World Small Scale Fisheries Congress, the series of Congress that is taking place, and we plan to be there, in the future congresses as well, the MARA conference, the global, other initiatives and forums that were created by our partners TBTI. So we have been an active participant and contributor, bringing a lot of our members to these forums to present and share and collaborate with others. And of course, the last but not the least is tremendous numbers of publications that our members have done. Of course, these are not all funded and supported by V2V Global Partnership, but this is the work of our members that they have produced as part of their engagement in other forums, and we have every reason to celebrate that work. So I'm, have taken the liberty to include all of their work here. To say congratulations and say thank you for contributing in such massive ways to the work of small-scale fisheries around the globe. And this work is going to continue. Just to finish up, we're looking forward to the next year already in terms of continuing the important work at all levels that we have already heard about. That includes, having our first in-person meetings in Asia and Africa in terms of regional project meetings. One is being planned for November at the World Small Scale Fisheries Congress in Cape Town. Moiniba already spoke about it. And one in Asia in probably in January that is being planned. We are looking at bringing all working group co-leads to a meeting so that the integration, the linkages and the interrelationships between this, the work of these working groups can be further fine-tuned and agreed upon. Take stock and start preparations for the CERC midterm review, which is an important milestone that is due in October 2023. But we would be really starting this work, following this meeting, and start to kind of gather the information, the other material that we need for the midterm review, because it's an important milestone. It will decide whether we are going forward or not. There is many experience in this call that people have already done this as part of other projects, but we will continue this work in terms of going forward to the midterm review in October. And then, of course, we will come back to this forum again next year on the same day, July 6th, to hear our stories, our experiences, our challenges and opportunities and the work that we have done. And that's the way we'll continue into the future. And thank you very much.
Okay, super. Thanks, Prateep, for summarizing all the different things that are happening and that will be happening in the coming year as well. As always, really, really productive partnership. It's all because we're doing so many things together. We just have a few moments before we need to close the meeting. Open up the floor if there's any questions or final comments. Please feel free to jump in now. We've covered a lot of territory, from the celebration of life of our great colleagues to the students, to some good conversation. Yeah, Foluke, please.
Thank you very much. When the issue of capacity building was being discussed, it just crossed my mind that in Nigeria, for instance, we have issues, and other West African countries, we have issues with data on small-scale fisheries, getting the correct data, or data that is usable, data that is reliable, that you can authenticate the source of it. And so if you make any plan or management decisions or policies on it, it will, you can expect a good outcome. I don't know if the capacity group can in any way do anything about data collection in terms of training, also capacity building training, or partnering with any national initiative on that, because I am planning on having a Zoom meeting where we can train newly employed fisheries officers and enumerators on data collection. So I'm wondering if there can be some form of partnership or even without partnership, where you have trainings for fisheries officers, enumerators from the agri-development projects, all those who are extension officers, and others interested in data collection for small-scale fisheries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Foluke. Yeah, that's a really interesting issue, and one I think maybe we can definitely have a longer conversation about that. So maybe we can flag that for now as something to talk about. And I think it has some connections to the information system group in some ways too. So I think that's a really good idea. Maniba, Aliyu, I see your hand, but Maniba had her hand up first, and then we'll come back to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to kind of yeah, when you showed the senior fellows and have Paul Onyango's name to it, it immediately kind of showed me, kind of indicated to me how he would have responded, and his laughter and his proudness. So thank you.
Thanks, Niba. Aliyu.
Yes, just two brief statement or point. The first is that I fully agree with what have said my colleague from Nigeria, and in particular when she noticed the fact that without reliable data you can't have any idea of how to manage your fisheries. You can't have having a good data collection system is part of good governance. That's why I'm used to to consider governance as a very big umbrella under which we can just insert all these topics, statistical data collection, even policies and so on. I agree, but where I have a concern is that, for example, when of course she's asking whether it's possible, for example, to have some support for the specific case of Nigeria, but for me, you can't change the situation having reliable data, whatever it is, the importance, of support you have, unless you even question the paradigm of research, how it's being done, in our countries. But even if we are from two different cultural, contexts, I think, we have the same system of functioning. We have people who are trained in the best university, abroad, in Rimouski, for example, for Senegalese people, some in England, maybe in France and all. But the paradigm of research must be changed. This top-down, approach must be really questioned. Once you involve, small-scale fishery, community in this process, you gain at several scales. For example, you can minimize, for example, financial transaction costs because you have involvement of fishing communities. You can have reliable, data because it's coming from these people. And then you can even have, this recognition of research because fishing communities, were involved in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But once it's done like that, people who are trained with their PhD in very, well-known and famous university, coming with their computer, it doesn't work. In Senegal, for example, we are in the worst situation where data since, more than 4 decades have never been, updated. Just this I wanted to do. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
And it's very important that we organize, something on this topic. It's a very important because it's about governance.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks. So two really helpful contributions there from Fuluke and you, Aliou, about this idea of data, and clearly issues of data availability and reliability and how we do it go far beyond this particular project, but we can, as a group, put some attention to that. I think that's a great idea. We're out of time now. I'm gonna wrap things up. As always, feel free to reach out and engage in the many platforms that we have. I'm going to turn it over to Prateep just to say maybe a final word, and I want to just thank everybody for participating. Thank you all. Thanks, Seville, for organizing everything as well, and really looking forward to the year ahead. So thank you. Prateep, final word to you.
Thank you. I mean, I echo, your words, Derek, and this is wonderful because we are able to come together and talk to each other about what we have done and what we want to do and what are our passions and interests going forward, and that includes also some challenges and concerns. So we're not shying away from talking about areas that we still have concerns and will continue to have some concerns, but that also provides us an opportunity to work together on those new areas. So I really look forward to the next year when we can come back and talk about these things again. And but in the meantime, we have 12 months and a lot of working together that remains to be done. And of course, we are a partnership, so the partnership doesn't function without collaboration, without partnership, without working together in cooperation. So that's what we rely on heavily all the time, and I look forward to working on behalf of the Waterloo team secretariat with everyone that is on this call and not on this call because they're busy doing important work elsewhere. In the next 1 year, so that we can come back and talk about these achievements once again. Really, thankful to all of you for your contribution and making your voices clear, so that we can learn from each other and continue into the future. Thank you.
Right. Thanks. Take care, everybody. Stay well, and we will be in. Talk to everybody soon. Have a great rest of the evening or day or afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Everyone.